Hi YouTube, videos back at you for another Q&A video. This is going to be my Q&A number 10. So let's get right into these questions. Let's start with the Walking Dead show questions. The first question comes from TheBlackAntihero and they ask, do you think Dwight and Daryl will become friends later on in The Walking Dead? So that was a great question from TheBlackAntihero. I think it's tough to say at the moment because obviously with how similar they are, it's going to be tough to remix the story so that they do the comic book fans justice and have Dwight's story come to life and also satisfy Daryl fans. Because of how similar they are, they can't really have both of them work together. But it's actually a great way to remix the story, and they've already done that by having the rivalry between Dwight and Daryl. But if they want to end their rivalry, it's going to be tough for both of them to coexist. I think if they follow Dwight's comic arc, they're gonna have to, at some point, settle the difference between Dwight and Daryl, and in doing that, they would need to have one of them die. And in my opinion, the best way is for them to have Daryl die in a very epic way in All Out War, and basically for him to give his life and sacrifice his life to save someone, but then have Dwight be there so that they could complete his comic arc. So in terms of them becoming friends, I don't think that's possible. I think they can have a mutual respect for one another and come to terms with each other's situation and understand each other. But in terms of being friends, I don't think they'll ever be friends, especially since Dwight killed Denise right in front of Daryl with Daryl's crossbow. So that is going to always be in between them, and Daryl can't forgive Dwight for doing that. But that's a very good question. The next question comes from Roleplay Morgan Jones, and he basically asks a series of questions related to Shane, so I'm gonna answer them individually. The first part of his question is, if Shane was still alive and be in the lineup, do you think he would be picked by Negan to take the bat? And would he be a good Lucille victim? So for the first part of that, would Negan pick Shane? Now that's very hard to say because obviously we don't know still up to this point, even for comic readers, if Negan's Eeny Meeny Miny Moe was truly random or not. So because of that, it's going to be hard for us to speculate whether or not Shane would have been picked if he was in the lineup, because if it's random, there's no way to know. Now if it wasn't random, if Negan did it strategically and had someone in mind from the beginning, if you look at it from that aspect, then I would say Shane would be a very good candidate because he has a leadership kind of characteristic to him, even in his facial expressions and all, and he does look like someone who would be a problem in the future for Negan if he's alive. So if he's not doing it randomly, I think he would definitely choose between Abraham or Shane because they're the ones that are stronger, they're the ones that look like they could cause the most trouble. Would he be a good Lucille victim? It's just tough to say because it all depends what happened with him afterwards. If he survived and didn't die the way he did, what would happen with him? Would he become a more likable character? What sort of things would he do? Would he be an ally to Rick and basically forget everything? Or would there be some animosity between them? And how would Shane treat others? For example, other people at Alexandria, would he treat them the same way he treated the people at the farm? Or would he understand that the community is also an important aspect of surviving? So there's a lot of different things that need to be thought about before we actually say if he would be a good Lucille victim. As an example, right now, if we had Spencer in the lineup and he died, nobody would say he was a good candidate because his character is not very well liked and he's kind of a side character that is there to oppose the hero in some ways, obviously Rick, and also he's basically a character that creates problems for the main character, being Rick, but is not really the villain of the show. So in the same way, if Shane was alive and he basically was in the same categorization as Spencer, he wouldn't be a good Lucille victim, but otherwise he would be. So it's very tough to answer that question. The next part of his question is, how would Shane handle it? Would he take his fate like a man, or would he be scared? I think Shane would take it the same way as Abraham would take it if he gets the bat. In many ways, Abraham and Shane are similar in the way they act, in the way they are, basically, not really their sense of humor or anything like that, but in terms of who they are as a person. They're strong characters, they are very vocal, they are not willing to back down, they always want to stand up and do something if they don't agree with it, if they don't like it, and they're not willing to just sit down and let others decide things for them. So I think he would pretty much act the same way Abraham acted, and he would stand up, he would be very cocky, he would have a come at me attitude, and he would not find Negan as intimidating as others would. But that's a very good question. Let's move on to the Walking Dead comic questions. The first question comes from Stephen Moraga, and he asks, should Gabriel have died in issue 158? I can see where he's coming from, because it was very predictable, because even before I read the issue, obviously there was speculation and some spoilers about someone dying at the beginning of the issue, and the first thought I had was, it's probably Gabriel, and it was the case. But it was shocking at the same time, because of how graphic and how brutal it was. So even though it was predictable, it was shocking, and it fit the story pretty well. So I think there wasn't a problem with his death. But that's a good question. The next question comes from Roleplay Ezekiel, and he asks, how do you think the Whisper War will end? Obviously, it's gonna end with Rick and the others killing every one of the Whisperers, and killing Beta, and taking care of the walkers as well that are there. But other than that, I think it just ends with Rick and the others winning, like they always do. But that doesn't mean that there won't be casualties. There's definitely going to be casualties. Rick is going to lose people he loves. He's going to lose people he cares about. He's going to lose his closest friends. But at the end of the day, he's going to win, like he always does. And in some ways that is predictable. It's just the way things are. But what's great about it is that he doesn't win with nothing lost. He's going to lose some things in the process. And also, winning doesn't necessarily mean being at the top. He could be a winner, but Beta could be a winner as well in some aspects, because obviously he's killed some of Rick's closest friends, closest people, his loved ones, and also he has shown that what Rick has built can be broken, and that Rick isn't as strong as he thinks he is. He might win, but he's not strong, because he's going to lose things in the way. And it's just a matter of how he rebuilds himself from that. That matters. But that's a great question. The next question comes from 0718 Dragon Lord, and they ask, do you think the girl Eugene is communicating with is part of a friendly or hostile group? It's very tough to answer that. From the looks of it, it looks like Stephanie, the girl who Eugene is communicating with, is from a friendly group, but that may not be the case, and they may be misleading us. Also, they may start as friendly, but some things can happen, and they could become the next villain, for example. They can become more hostile. So that's tough to answer at the moment, but maybe we'll have more answers as the story progresses. But that's a very good question. The last question is kind of a show/comic question, and it comes from Roleplay Ezekiel again, and they ask, when do you think Rick will die? So I think if they don't kill Rick off in the war, which I doubt it, I originally thought that they were building up his death, but at the moment I don't think that's a possibility anymore. So if they don't kill him off in the war, I think he's going to stick around till the end of the series. So he's gonna die when the series ends. Or they could also do it so that whenever Rick dies, another story begins. The story of Carl. Not necessarily creating a new kind of comic, but on the contrary, continuing this franchise with Rick gone, but Carl taking over. If that happens, it's going to be a very big issue, and it's going to be a very big moment in the series, because obviously we start with Rick, and whenever we lose Rick, it's going to be a big moment. But I think there's definitely setup for his death sometime in the future, because if the series ends and Rick is still alive, I would think that there's more to be told, and it would be early to end if that happens. I would think that they should have continued and done something with Rick before they end the series. But that's a very good question. So that's it for this Q&A video. If you want to participate in the next Q&A video, please write your questions in the comment section below. Make sure to put Q&A before your comment so I can find it. And I'm going to be doing my next Q&A video probably in a week or a week and a half. But that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll be back for another video.